Alright guys, we're at Brighton University and we're going to be asking students of the University of Brighton whether they would house a refugee or not. We're at the University of Brighton asking students whether they would house a refugee or not. We've got a little group here, so we'll do it one at a time. Would you house a refugee?
Yeah, if I lived somewhere where I was allowed to.
What about you?
Yeah, I think I would, depending on money.
Whether you could afford to or not?
Yeah, same really. Just like, I struggle to pay my rent, but if I could, then I would.
Okay, so are you guys all saying that you would, but you can't currently?
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So in terms of illegals, so in terms of the legal side of it, they are illegal if they are not through asylum or through refugee asylum, etc. We would house those people as well. You know about small boats arriving on our shores. Would we house them as well, or is that a separate topic to refugee or asylum?
That's definitely separate.
It is separate, isn't it?
I mean, I wouldn't personally do it if it counts as breaking the law if they're in my house, but I don't know actually.
It's a bit of a sticky situation.
So, for example, at the moment, I don't mind telling you that I'm from Berkshire, so I know about hotels that are, I'm sure you guys know about this, that the hotels are closed to the public for 6 to 9 to 12 months. They're all subsidised, all paid for, 3 square meals a day. They've arrived illegally, they are illegal, and we're paying for those people to be here. So it's not a sticky subject, it's more of an opinion. You'd house a refugee if you could, you say, but would you house someone who was illegal? Because some people have said to me that there is no such thing as an illegal. We're an island, remember, it's not the same as continental Europe. Would you house an illegal?
I'm not sure.
I feel like I would, because they're all coming from the same situation. They're all like coming from wars and everything, like they're not in the same.
Yeah, I feel like I would. I just like have to, it's not like regulated the same, so I guess I'd want to make sure it's like a safe situation for me as well. Like,
okay, so that's so they're two different refugees and illegals is not the same thing. We can all agree on that, as you've said. But you would house, but you can't. Is that correct at the moment?
Yeah.
Who should be hosting them then if you guys can't? You're saying you're not property owners yet, and you don't have space. It's not your decision.
Yeah.
So who?
We're not homeowners.
I mean, if you have the money and resources where you can fund having someone else in your house, then I guess if you should do it if you can. But
Yeah, no, I think if you like have the money, the resources, depends if like the government are willing to help you. If like the government give you help and you also have help and space, then I think you should.
Yeah, I feel like people with empty rooms, like maybe like kids gone to uni or something, perfect people to like offer rooms out.
Okay. Would you guys share your bedroom with a refugee then? You have spare room on the floor for a mattress?
I don't, but I would if I did.
If you had space?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have space in your bedroom?
No, it's tiny.
No, I think people forget like the UK is a very privileged country. Obviously, maybe not right now with the strikes and everything, but we're very privileged. I don't think we realise how lucky we have it compared to some other countries. So like, obviously, maybe like we think, oh no, that's the worst thing that could possibly happen, but you probably got to think like where they've come from. That all they want is a warm bed and a warm room to sleep.
Just the basics.
Yeah, the basics. That's all they want.
And so you mentioned earlier on about the government paying for it. When you say the government paying for it, do you mean the taxpayer?
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
The government doesn't have any money, does it? It's taxpayer money, so the taxpayer should fund it.
Yeah. I mean, the taxpayer funds everything realistically at the end of the day, doesn't it?
I agree. All the money comes from the populace, doesn't it?
But I don't think it's necessarily. Well, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
But the taxpayer, we're agreeing, if we should house illegals or refugees, the taxpayer should, through the government, should pay for it.
Yeah.
At least some of it.
Yeah.
Like maybe like charities and stuff could help out towards like the situation.
Private donations, but that's not the majority of it. The majority of with other sectors it is. But you guys yourselves couldn't house or sleep any refugees at the moment.
not legally.
No, not in my tiny student bedroom.
All right, guys, thank you. That's amazing. Cool. We're at the University of Brighton asking students whether they would house a refugee. Would you house a refugee?
Yeah, I would.
Not an accommodation, but at home, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So, you guys live in halls, you're students, or you have whatever residence you've got, so you can't house refugees yourselves, but mum and dad, you've inferred, is that right? Parents at home?
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was like a spare room or anything.
There's spare room at home. Yeah.
So for refugees, what about on the? We all have space. So what about on the floor next to you guys? We all have space in the bedroom. What about on the floor? What about
like
on the landing?
Something like that.
Yeah, I guess like it depends if it makes it like comfortable for the person who's going to be staying there.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah, the main worry is just like money, I guess, isn't it, for buying food for multiple.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no other choice, I guess.
Okay, all right. So you guys would house refugees, or your parents would, or your families would, etc. Okay. And what about illegals? Because refugees is different to illegals, and we're an island. So anyone rocking up illegally against someone who's queuing in the asylum system would be considered to be something different. But a lot of people see them as the same thing, and they're all people arriving here from whatever situation. So what about illegal? Would you house an illegal?
I guess I would depend like on the circumstance.
Say again?
I guess I would depend like on the circumstance.
On the circumstances.
Yeah, well, I'd like talk to them, see like what's going on. If I knew them, then definitely yeah.
Yeah,
but,
like if you knew that situation,
case
then
to
maybe
case
you
really,
can
isn't it?
decide.
Just depends on their situation, doesn't it? Where they like came from, why.
So you'd have to know them.
No, not know them, just know
knowing
like.
them would help, but like, I mean, see if they're a nice, good person, you know.
So what I find is that no one point blank says no to that. They say what you guys are saying, which is that yes, I would, and then there's a but there's no point blank. You wouldn't just say no. So for example,
I feel like the word illegal just adds a bit more of just like scarcity, like
Puts you at risk, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone would really find out, but like, I think the word just illegal makes it a bit more scary.
So we have there's only a certain amount of people that a country can host, right? And Britain's got its own problems, like every other country. So there's always going to be a system with regards to how to get in, unless you were advocating complete open borders of anyone from anywhere, which I don't think you're not doing. Are you a fan of open borders? The idea of no control whatsoever? You can come in from anywhere.
I don't.
I'm fine with that.
I don't know if it would be bad or good, to be honest.
Sure.
Probably the same answer. I don't think it'd be a good thing, but again, like,
Why wouldn't it be a good thing?
I don't really know. I just feel like there'd be. I can't really answer that, to be honest. But there would just be a lot of people coming over because there is a lot of places in the world where people need to get away from. And
we don't know who they are, what their background is, criminal records, vetting, like standard issue vetting, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just like we would be vetted if we want to go to Australia or America or wherever. That's not a bad thing, is it? It's like a job interview. Same stuff. So, so you would house a refugee, and if you knew them and under the circumstances, you'd house an illegal?
Yeah.
Same?
Yes.
Same?
Yeah.
But you guys can't do it at the moment.
No.
So who should be housing? You know about the hotels that are now shut off to the public, where illegals are now being housed. That's in Eastbourne. There's one. There's several in Brighton across the counties, etc., where the hotel is shut off to the general public, and it's just only illegals that are allowed in there. At 3 square meals a day, all provided for, no assimilation into the culture whatsoever. So the taxpayer's paying for that. That makes sense, guys. So when you say you would house a refugee or you would house an illegal, but you can't right now, who should house them? Should the government?
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
The government?
It's more organised as well.
Yeah, of course, it's centralised, more organised. And where does the government get their money from? Taxpayer, right?
Yeah, taxpayers.
So we're paying for it. We're paying for it.
Then.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yep. All right, we're at the University of Brighton asking students whether they would house a refugee. Would you house a refugee?
Yes.
Yeah?
Definitely.
So, housing a refugee isn't the same as, say, dealing with someone who was here illegally. That's what most people seem to agree on. Would you agree? Or
No,
is
it's definitely a different status they have.
different status? Okay. So you'd house a refugee. Do you have the space to do that, or would it be reliant on something else?
I mean, there's definitely space in my flat. Of course, I have to confirm my other flatmates they're on board because it's a shared space. But I'll definitely be up for it.
Sure. Okay, good. But with regards to housing an illegal, that wouldn't be something that you would be so keen on? Lots of people are saying that illegal and refugee is the same thing. The point is that they're coming from a situation that was so bad, and they're actually the same thing. But I'm not sure they are the same thing. So that's what we're specifically interested in, is would you house an illegal, for example?
I mean, I wouldn't exactly be sure how I can determine whether they have the refugee status or not. So I guess making a presumption in either way. do you think they'll actually admit that they don't actually have a status right here and then ask me to house them knowing that they don't have the right to stay? I mean, in that case, I might get them the help they need. Because even if at the moment they don't have refugee status, if they have the probable reasons and everything, they can definitely get one. So I'll definitely help them in that sense if they don't have refugee status. Yes.
So who's supposed to pay for all this? So obviously, if individuals want to help out and take on board refugees, that's on their individual budget. But in terms of illegals coming here saying, look, I'm refugee, I qualify for refugee status, I come, but it's the same argument. It's saying I'm fleeing something to have a better life. Should the British public pay for that? When we talk about government money, that's taxpayer money. So should we pay for that?
As long as they do not have the proper status, refugee status, I'd say that we shouldn't. But we should definitely consider whether they deserve to get a status or not. Like, that should definitely be considered, not just extradited.
Of course. So we have an asylum system, like all countries. We have a visa system, as you know. We have an asylum system. So we have those systems in place. But we get a lot of people coming from worse off situations. So whether we use the word refugee or actually no refugee papers, just illegal, at what point do we say, actually, this is about British people funding that, and actually we have our own problems as well? Is that a dynamic, do you think?
I mean, it's more about helping people in need, I think. If they don't have the financial possibility to sustain themselves and they can't go back to where they came from due to obvious reasons, then it's definitely more of a humane duty to fulfill, to help them out as much as we can. I mean, I don't know to what extent exactly, but at least give them the strict necessities to survive.
Sure. But you would house a refugee?
Yeah.
And you'd consider, if you could understand there was an opportunity to help out somebody who was illegal, but it was legal for you to help them out, they're here, we do it, you would consider that as well?
Yes.
But you don't currently? Some people do, they from Ukraine, for example, wherever.
To be fair, where I come from, back in Romania, there's quite a few Ukrainian refugees staying there as well. I don't really have any property or anything that I can use to help to house them, but I guess if I did, hypothetically speaking, I would.
Sure, understood. Nice and honest. So we're at Brighton University asking students whether they would house a refugee or not. Would you house a refugee?
Yes, I would.
Good.
Want to know why?
Yeah, sure, why not?
I'm Ukrainian.
Yeah, take the mic.
I'm Ukrainian, and I totally understand what it's like to be a refugee, that's
Sure.
why.
What part of Ukraine are you and your family from?
Odessa, south part of Ukraine.
So we can all say that housing refugees is a good thing.
Yes, I would say that.
Okay, and that makes sense, right?
That makes sense.
Women, children?
Women, children.
Men?
Men, if they can leave the country, sure.
If they can leave?
If they can leave, yes,
Should they
why
be
not?
fighting? Should they be fighting at home in the war? Not Ukraine.
There's
anywhere.
no should. It depends on the circumstances.
But women and children first.
Women and children first. Definitely.
Understood. Okay, understood. What about illegals? How long have you been in the UK for?
4 months. 6
4
months.
months.
5 months.
Sure. Okay. So do you know about obviously the fact that we're an island? You know that we have a lot of illegal traffic that comes from the Middle East and from Asia as well.
Yes.
So we're not talking about refugees. We're talking about illegals. Should the British taxpayer fund that?
Depends on their situation.
The illegal situation.
The illegal situation. Yeah.
In terms
why?
of
Like
why they are.
Why they are. Yeah. What is happening in their country?
Okay.
All this.
Again, if it was all males of fighting age and no women and children, would that change our public, our populace?
That would change.
It would change the opinion?
Definitely.
If it was all women and children, that would change our opinion another way?
Yes, totally.
Okay. Should the British taxpayer fund the housing and facilitation of people that arrive here illegally? Should it be on the British public?
It depends on the situation. I think there should be a categorization of those things.
So whether they're from war-torn,
Yes.
whether it's women and children.
What is their background and everything, yes.
And also the state of Britain as well. Like if Ukraine decided to take a load of refugees or illegals from wherever else, you'd have to look at the state of the country as well. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that we have to look first
I would agree with that, because first citizen of the country and then whoever else.
Good. Spot on. Honest. Wow, that's amazing. What's your name, by the way?
Thank you. I'm Xenia. Xenia.
Xenia.
Xenia.
Like I said, my name's Nick. It's nice to meet
meet
you. So what I never hear is we need to look after our land, our people. This doesn't come up, and we ask this question an awful lot, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's this byproduct of liberalism. Apart from everything else on the list, is this constant need to virtue signal, which is a byproduct of what happens, whether it's white guilt or just guilt, or whether it's just brainwashing from whichever stimuli, mum and dad, media, social media out of hand, not being strict enough with social media and smartphones with children. So all we can really deduce is that it's this narcissistic, this liberal narcissistic personality disorder, what we know as virtue signaling, but we called it virtue signaling because it's trendy and it's catchy and virtue signaling, but it's narcissistic personality disorder. So we get all the opinions and all the comments, yes, I'd house a refugee, yes, I'd house an illegal, but it's absolute nonsense. And within that, if it could get any worse, you've also got people not talking about patriotism, not talking about assimilation, not talking about cultural issues, not talking about core values, again that comes under assimilation, but just basic stuff that I would expect for a populace that was so hell-bent on virtue signalling to say or to counterbalance. It simply doesn't happen. And we've asked this question many times now. If you're an economic migrant and you're looking for a better life, you can come under the guise of being a refugee or an illegal, rocking up as definition of an island on our shores in a small boat. Meanwhile, we have all these problems as well, and no one has the gumption to say, in this liberal mentality, no one has the gumption to say, actually, there should be a queuing system, a visa system, an asylum, an application system. You're then vetted. It's common sense. And you just don't hear that ever. Instead, it's like, yeah, I do this, I do that. I can't do it myself, but I do it. It's liberal. It's narcissistic personality disorder based on liberalism. That's all one can deduce, and it's absolutely everywhere. And what's that born out of? Fear. Fear of being cancelled, fear of not seeming inclusive, not seeming diverse enough, not being pro-equality enough. It's utter nonsense. It's not real. It's just fear. Fear is now what governs these young men and women. We should be seeing patriots, and we should be seeing common sense, and not necessarily conservative values, because I understand that there's differences of opinions, just because that's my particular ideology. But we don't. We see it's narcissistic personality disorder. It's talk and feelings, but when it comes to it, there's nothing backing it up. There's no backbone or spine whatsoever. It's just pure, I want to be seen to be doing the right thing. I don't want to get into trouble. Well, what kind of society is that building? And again, is it parents, social media, media? You can point fingers all day long. At some point, you've got to draw the line and say, we're going to need a leader to come into politics to say and stand up and say, sorry, but this is over. This isn't happening anymore. It's crazy. It's more depressing than crazy and angry. It's more depressing. We never hear that when we talk about the refugee topic. Never comes up. Assimilation, core values. How does this actually work practically? It's just no. Liberal narcissistic personality disorder, virtue signalling. Crazy.